So welcome everybody to this episode of Relic News. I'm really looking forward to this next interview. We'll be interviewing Mary A Shafer. Some of you might know her as an author that has recently released a book. Now this book is Metal Detecting for Beginners, 101 Things I Wish I Had Known When I Started. Now this is an amazing book. It's more of a guide than a book, and you can actually just flip right through all these pages. You can go through the index, search certain topics that you would love to read about. I think that Mary has done an incredible job on this book, and I really think a lot of you would really enjoy this. No matter if you've just started in the hobby or if you've been in the hobby for a long time, it's great to read. It really kind of reminds you some of those things that you've forgotten after the years in the hobby, or some things that we take for granted today and we really don't think about. Well, she's mentioned a lot of great stuff. Now, one thing that really had surprised me, I had seen Mary release this book last year. I was really impressed. I had shared her stuff, and to my surprise, actually, Eric had picked up this book and he was actually skimming through, and Mary never even told me about this, but on page 93, Relic News. News coverage by Lori Gagne of amazing people and finds from metal detecting and treasure hunting. Some of the biggest names in the hobby are interviewed, sharing great stories and immense knowledge with all of us lucky enough to follow the channel. Thank you so much, Mary. I hope that this season as well is going to bring a lot of information to people and hopefully a lot of tips. So we're going to get ready to give a call to Mary. With that being said, welcome to another episode of Relic News. Good. I'm just going to set up my screen caption.
I want to tell you before you get started, I love what you do, and I love how you do it. I love watching your family. I love that you guys hunt together. That makes me so happy to watch, So just thanks for doing it, because I know it's a lot of work. I just stumbled across you. I'm like, awesome. It's a woman digger and she's from Canada. Yay. Because I've never had a bad experience in Canada, and I've been up there quite a bit. So.
Oh my God. I know when I came across you and you had published your book, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like a female too published a book on metal detecting. This is wicked. And I swear to you, the biggest surprise came to me when Eric had picked up the book the day that we received it, and he's flipping through it, and he just so happened to land on page 93, and he's like, Lori? I was like, yes. And he's like, Relic News? Like this? And I'm like, what? I was absolutely clueless. It blew me away. And when I read that, I was like, wow, thank you so much. When was the very first time that you even heard about a metal detector or even seen a metal detector?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I can't remember, to be honest with you, but it was probably about 15 years ago. I'm a big history buff, and I read a lot of magazines. I think it may have been either in the back of Preservation magazine or in some other historical publication. And I think too that this was even before all the shows on TV, but I think it was the shows on TV that kind of sparked it for me again, the really early one, which shall go unnamed. I looked at that and I thought, well, he's a Yahoo, but I really like this idea of metal detecting.
I think I know who you're talking about. So cool. So you actually came across it and you had an interest. What was the first machine you purchased?
It was a gift, actually. I think I kind of was annoying enough saying how I wanted to try this, and my partner at the time bought me a Garrett Ace 100, which is, a single knob, very simple machine. It was good to learn on, but as far as, really getting serious about it, at this point, I kind of consider it a toy. It basically said, yes, there's something in the ground, good luck. And I knew nothing about, I didn't know anything about this hobby at all. I just got this machine. I did watch the video. I read the manual, and it took me a while. And I went outside in my yard and I dug some holes about the size of trash can lids. And I thought, and it took me like hours to find anything. And what I was finding was, cut nails and stuff, because I, at the time, lived in an 1850s stone farmhouse. So I figured there must be something in the ground. And it was just so frustrating. I put it away and it sat in the closet for 3 years before I picked it up again. And that's what I didn't want to have happen, to other people. But I really wanted people not to have to struggle like I did, because I would have been hunting 3 years earlier, and I wish I would have, I think of those years that I missed, but it was so frustrating. I knew that I couldn't be digging those humongous holes, and I didn't know about there was such a thing as a pinpointer, and that was a game changer.
So what's the machine that you use today?
I am now using a White's MX Sport, which I am in love with. Seriously, if you can love a piece of equipment, I love that machine. There was several in between. The first machine that I was really successful with was the Ace 250 from Garrett, which I do love. I love that machine. I'll never get rid of it. I keep it with me in case somebody wants to hunt with me on a permission. Sometimes the owners want to hunt, which is really fun, actually. And then in between there, I also had an AT Pro, and then I got my White's Treasure Pro. And I have since sold the AT Pro because I don't need 2 water machines, and I needed the money. So I kind of hated to do it. But as much as I really loved the Ace 250, I think anybody in the world could operate that machine and do well with it. In fact, I just recommended it to somebody today who asked me what I would recommend, and that was one of them. But I just never really embraced the AT Pro. There was just something about it. I always felt like I was behind the 8 ball with that machine and didn't really understand it. And I came to the point where I understood enough to know it wasn't going to be a good machine for me because I just wasn't comfortable with it. I have so many friends that love it. And I'm on the Women Diggers Facebook group, which I absolutely love. And so many of the ladies on there really love their AT Pros, but it just wasn't for me. And it was kind of weird because, my first 2 machines were Garrett's. This was a Garrett. And I felt guilty. I felt guilty not loving this machine. I thought, that's stupid. It's a machine. And then my friend DJ is a big White's guy, as everybody knows. And then I kept hunting with him and seeing just the stuff he pulled out of the ground with his MXT Pro. But I tried that machine and I thought my arm was going to fall off. It was just too heavy for me. So when they came out with their beginner machines, he said, you want to try these? And I'm like, okay. So I said, well, when do I need to give it back? And he goes, I'll tell you what, you can try the Treasure Master for as long as you want, as long as you give me a review at the end of it. And I thought, well, that's fair. So I kept that thing for a month, and it was awesome. It was lighter actually than even my 250, which really surprised me. And then he told me that there was one a little higher than that actually had a backlight on it, and I'm like, oh my God, is that even possible? This is so cool. I was amazed at how quickly and easily I picked up the machine. How even I never even did read that manual, and I figured out how to do the options and all that stuff and the programming. Now, there's a learning curve with it, like any other machine, but boy, I was productive with that machine very quickly and really liked it.
What was the name of that machine again?
That was the White's Treasure Master. And based on that, probably 2 or 3 months later, I bought a Treasure Pro because I wanted everything, but I did want that backlight because I work a lot. I work for myself. So frequently the only time I can get out is in the evening. And by then the sun's starting to get low. And where I live, there's a lot of trees. So there's a lot of shadows and big buildings casting shadows. And that backlight is amazing. It makes all the difference, and even if you have sunglasses on for being out in the sun, if you walk into a shade area, you kind of have that sun blindness for a little bit. You don't have to worry about it with that. You can just pop and it's easy to pop on and off with one press of a button. So, there's just nothing not to love about it.
Has anybody inspired you in this hobby?
Yes. DJ's been my biggest inspiration. But the people that are on the cover of the book were actually my very first diggin' buddies. After the 3 years when I finally, got online and started thinking, maybe I can find metal detecting people on here. That was really before Facebook was a thing, at least for most people. And I actually found a place called Treasure Time, I think it was. And it was a forum website. And I met Ricky Montoro on there, and she was very kind to me. She reached out to me actually after seeing some of my posts on the board where I'm up there, hi, I'm a newbie, I have no idea what I'm doing, help, And she contacted me privately off list and was very, very kind and very helpful and invited me down to hunt with a group of them who had all met on Treasure Time. They were having actually a memorial dig for a friend who had died, and who was a detectorist. And it's kind of bittersweet because, we were all like, I didn't really know the guy, but they were celebrating his life. And all I thought was, well, he must have been a great guy because these are really nice people. And that was the start of it for me. So as much as I thought they would make really great cover models, I asked them to be on the cover, Ricky and her husband, Joe, because they were so welcoming to me into the hobby. And between them and DJ, who just lives closer to me, he's only about half an hour away and they're like 2 hours away. So I hunt more often with him. But all of them have inspired me. Joe Montoro is one of the most historically knowledgeable people I've ever met in my life. And he's very, very humble about it. He's not going to sit there and tell you everything he knows to show off and impress you. But if you ask him, he is very, very generous and just blows me away what he knows. And DJ's the same way. I mean, it seems to me that the people who are the quietest about their knowledge are the ones who have the most and the best knowledge and who are very careful about sourcing their information. So if I hear something from one of those guys, I believe it. And mostly because if they tell me something and they're not sure, they'll say, I don't know if this is true. This is my best guess. And, that's all you can ask from somebody.
True. Very true. I'm just going to turn my camera back on. Wait. Okay, good. My biggest fear is not capturing somebody's interview. It really is. It's happened once where I lost somebody's interview and it was an hour and a half.
Oh no.
And I lost. What would you say has been your your biggest challenge in metal detecting?
Getting enough time to practice, I would say. I really mean that, not just like, oh, I don't get out to hunt. It's like, I want to practice. And I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, I won't dig clad. I'm like, really? Why? First of all, if you do dig clad, you just got money, free money, basically. It's battery money, But most of all, you've learned the tones on your machine better. And that's the one thing. I'm still most comfortable of all with my Ace 250 because I hunted with it for 7 years. And I found every kind of thing with it. And I've still, to this day, found my very best stuff with that. But I know that I'm not going to get better with any of my other machines until I spend the time practicing. And lately I haven't had a lot of time to get out because I'm working a lot. So that's a little frustrating. I guess I would say that's my biggest challenge.
Have you ever returned a find? Have you ever found something that was killed?
Not yet. I haven't found anything. I have been asked property markers for people, but kind of my neatest experience with being asked to find something was I was up visiting my sister in Maine, and I had my niece out. She's kind of interested in the detecting thing, and I actually gave her my Ace 100. And we were out doing a park one day, and up there, unlike here, even county parks, you have to get permission, which I didn't know, and it's not posted. So this guy came along, and he clearly was some kind of an authority guy there, and he's like, yeah, so what are you doing? I said, we're detecting, is that okay? He goes, well, technically you're supposed to get permission. I said, it would be helpful if that was posted. And he kind of looked at me, I said, I'm not being that smarty, I just, how would you know?
That's true.
And I don't even know where to ask or where to go because I'm not from around here. He goes, well, don't go across the street at the fort. I said, that I kind of knew. That's it's a state or national thing. I'm not sure. But I said, usually county parks are okay. And he goes, well, I don't want to give you a hard time. I'll tell you what. I'm like, okay. He goes, I lost my keys. If you'll come over to my house and help me find my keys, you can detect for the rest of the day. And I'm like, all right. So I piled my niece in the car, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to hang back behind this guy far enough because, like, if he's, like, a creeper, and he's, you just don't know.
You don't.
So I went, and it was clear he had the little house. His wife was outside messing around, so he was an older guy, and I thought, okay, I can take him if I have to. So it was like, so we got out of the car, and we're looking, and we looked hard for, like, half an hour to 45 minutes, and he thought he had dropped them while he was cutting wood, and we were going through all these sawdust piles. So it was actually helpful for me to show my niece how to dig through that stuff without being like destructo person. And so it wasn't a waste of time. And finally he goes, well, I guess I didn't lose him here. And he like said he was sure that he did. And I'm like, dude, 45 minutes and now you tell me? So he goes, well, you certainly looked hard enough, and I appreciate it. So he took out his business card, and he scribbled on the back that I have permission, and he dated it. And he goes, go back, and if anybody bothers you show them that and tell them to call me. So we went back and hunted, and, I didn't actually find his stuff, but I made a good try. And, one of these days I hope to be able to. I would love to join Ring Finders.
What would you say your favorite find has been?
It really depends, like, what you're using as measurements, but, like, if somebody just asks you that off the top of the head, I would say my favorite find was an 1857, I can't remember if it's seated or a standing liberty, quarter. I think it's a seated. Anyway, it's beautiful. It must have gone in the ground, like, a month after it got minted because it still has all the stars. You can read everything on the shield. I mean, I had a friend look at it who does do coin grading, and I didn't pay to have it officially done, but he said it's probably a $300 coin. And not that I care, because I'm not selling it. First of all, it was the first big silver I ever found. But the best part about it was I actually found it going behind DJ, and it's hard to find stuff that he misses. He doesn't miss much, especially when he was hunting with his MXT, and I was hunting with my Ace 250. And when I found it, I like screamed and jumped up and down because I had only really been seriously digging then at that point for maybe 2 years. And he comes running. He thought I hurt myself, and I couldn't even talk. I was so excited. I was shaking, and I handed them the quarter, and his eyes got really big, and he's like, "Where'd you find that?" And I pointed over between the roots of this tree, and he goes, "I went over that." I said, "I know. I heard your machine go off, and I couldn't believe you didn't stop." And he goes, "Tree roots is a lot of work." I said, "I know. This took me 45 minutes to dig out." And it was in between like these three roots. I had it was nuts, but I was able to stick the pinpointer down there. I got the light, and I saw the edge. It was the reeded edge, and it was shiny, and I'm like, that's silver. And it took me 45 minutes to excavate that thing, and it was worth every single second. And I think that's my favorite just because it was my first really cool, really valuable find and really, really old coin, for what I had found so far. My other one, I think probably, I have two other ones that are kind of up there. I found maybe about 4 years ago now, I found a 1773 Virginia halfpenny, which is weird because we're up here in Pennsylvania. And that oldness of a coin in this area, you generally find it 8 to 10 inches down. And I found this at 3 inches on a friend's farm. And I went over to him and I said, "Are you having issues with erosion?" He goes, "Yes, how did you know?" I said, "Because this should have been 5 inches deeper than it is." And it's pretty roached, but you can still tell what it is. And then my other one, when I moved to my apartment 2 years ago, it was just about this time of year, and I had just gotten my new Detechnix pinpointer. I wanted to try it out. And so it was also pretty new. I had only been using the AT Pro for about 6 months, and I had only been out with it maybe 5 times. So I was trying all these new equipment pieces and seeing what went on, and I got right to the back lot line of where I live, and I saw this little stream, and I thought, you know what, if somebody was going to sit around here, this is where they would have been, because there's a lot of trees that didn't used to be here. So I'm swinging, and I get this bonking signal, and I was like, and So I'm like, what's this? And I get down, maybe again, only about 4 inches, and I pulled up at 1739 King George III, and I didn't even know what it was. At first I thought it was a Hibernia because I had never seen a KG, and I turned it over and there's that shield on the back, and I'd only ever seen Hibernias online, so I didn't really know it was a different shape of it, the harp. So I just knew it was something cool. So I brought it in, and I cleaned it, and I didn't know, I still couldn't figure out what it was, so I took a picture of it with my camera, and I texted it to DJ, and he didn't text me, he calls me back, he goes, you got a KG, you know, and so those are my 3 favorites, I think, just because they were so cool. But if you ask me what my favorite thing is to find, it's thimbles. I love thimbles. I especially would love to find a silver one. I think they remind me of my mom. She was a seamstress, and I just like them. But I also think, as a historian, this is something that like women use every single day, and it was a very personal item, and I just feel like a connection to them through that.
So awesome. I love thimbles too. We've never, this year, we've never had found a silver thimble. And this year, Eric finds 2. He found 2. Boom and boom.
Nice.
He found 2 silver thimbles. I've been blown away. It took us 7 years to finally find one. Not only that, but another one was a silver spoon, was like high on my wish list along with a silver thimble. And sure enough, he found that too. He's had a horseshoe up his butt all week, and I mean all season. Seriously, So how long have you been an author for?
I've been an author since my first book was published in 1993. I started working on it in 1991, and it was a history of the first century of statehood of the state of Wisconsin, which is where I lived at the time. And then my second one was a book on rural America before the Industrial Revolution, you know, the agrarian kind of thing. And then I did my first self-published book in 2005, and been self-publishing ever since.
How many books in total do you have you published?
This is my 5th one. Actually, it's actually my 4th book that's all my own, and then I've got 2 anthologies that my work is in. Yeah, if you look on my website right now at maryshafer.com, I have 5 books, and 4 of those are the ones that they're all one subject, and then the other one, Almost Perfect, that's an anthology, and that I edited as well as wrote the anchor piece for it. And then I have my work in an anthology about the state of Wisconsin, so that's 6. And then I actually have 4 coloring books, but I didn't write those, I illustrated them, because in another lifetime I was a professional illustrator. So that's, if you count those, then I've got 9.
Wow.
So
that is really cool. Now, I mean, right on the title of your book, 101 Things I Wish I Had Known When I Started. To me, that right there is telling me what your inspiration was. Am I correct?
It truly was. Like I said, this was not, I didn't do this book because I thought it was going to make me a lot of money. I know it's a very limited, audience, but I did this book because I didn't want anybody to have to go through what I did to fall in love with this hobby. I love this hobby, and it has been good for me in so many ways, not the least of which is, back in June, on my 55th birthday, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And since then, I've lost 30 pounds. And part of it has been getting out and swinging my machine and purposely going on longer hunts so I have to walk more, and the getting up and getting down. And it's a vicious cycle in reverse, because the more I get up and get down, the more easily I can do it, and so, this hobby's been good for me in so many ways, and not the least of which is my health, and I'm really thankful for it. And I think, how many people could be enjoying this? And it was funny, because when I asked DJ to write the foreword,
that's a good one.
He goes, there was a lot of stuff in here that I had forgotten about, and I wouldn't have remembered to bring it up, And even with the book out, there's things I wish I had put in it, but I put it out with the intent of having it be the first of 3 guides in a series, because you just can't possibly fit everything into one book. But I think I got the stuff that you really, really need to know to get started, and then I'm going to do like 2 and 3, volume 2 and volume 3, that can build a little bit more, but you're still not necessarily at an advanced level.
That is awesome. So it's going to be like a 3-part series, this book.
I'm hoping so, yeah. I've definitely already got some material for the second one. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to write it next year because I've got some other books that I want to do, but I think probably the following year I'll do a second volume. Since I wrote the book, I've been giving workshops and I gave classes even at the local community school on this, and it's people that get frustrated because they're not finding, you know, I haven't found a Morgan dollar. Well, good luck, honey. I haven't either, and I've been doing this almost 13 years. Yeah, I'm in a part of the country where I could find that, but, you know, you got to get your coil over the target, and what I tell them is you've got to fish where the fish are. You know, it's really, I think, about trusting your research. Like, do your research first and trust it. Get the best machine you can afford, and then just practice as much as you can. That's really it. So one of the things, I don't care how long you've been digging and how old you are, don't be proud. If somebody can share their stuff with you, be gracious and accept that, and be grateful, because they're being very kind and generous, you know. And
that's awesome. I do have one last question, which I really want you to bring up as well. Can you let everybody know on where they can follow you, where they can purchase your book, and where they can find? Where are you on social media? You have a website.
Probably the best place, I mean, I have a lot of different sites because I have a lot of different books about a lot of different things, but for metal detecting, you can find me at detecting101.com, and my blog is there for my metal detecting. I don't even have that site completely filled out yet, but it's mostly filled out. I'm also on Facebook a lot. I have a treasure, it's called Metal Detecting and Treasure Hunting is my page. I'm on a lot of the other pages. I'm an admin on the Women Diggers page. And yes, I'm a very strong advocate for women in the hobby. I really liked it. We can get out there with the guys. I'm always happy when I see people at digs and I see a lot of women in the crowd, because there's no reason you can't enjoy this as much as a gal as you can as a guy. And, you know, I think it makes the hobby richer if we have diversity. And I just like hanging out with everybody. Everybody has a different reason to love it. So, yeah, so basically detecting101.com is where you can find me. If you want to look at the other books that I've written, you can find me at maryshafer.com. That's my author site.
Wonderful. I think we got it all.
You're welcome.
So, these are all the questions that I had for you today. This is going on almost 2 hours.
I know, they're going to be sick of me. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking the time and doing this interview, and I'll get it all together and I'll let you know when I'll put it out.
Thanks, Lori.
You're welcome. Bye. There we go. We just said bye to Mary Shafer. Ah, what a wonderful person. That was absolutely so much fun, and I hope you guys all enjoyed this interview as well. See you next week.
Morning rush hour on Friday morning, the 19th. It was in Easton, and it was coming up.
It was the worst flood ever recorded in this area.
A local historian, Lance Metz, was 7 when the flood hit Easton. Today he stands in the city's Scott Park, right where the Delaware and Lehigh rivers meet. 50 years ago, this area was completely submerged.
Here's the Lehigh, swollen beyond capacity, trying to come into the Delaware, and the Delaware says, I don't think so, I'm already full, you can't come in here. So the water went the only place it had to go. It backed up into the city.